Background's automotive. I started, car dealerships type thing. So I worked for GM, went through all their training, but I've always been into racing. I'm from Ohio, so we had snowmobiles and I raced those and learned different things. And I knew that's kind of where I wanted to go. And eventually got the opportunity to go to Alabama and work at a performance shop. So I was there for about 10 years and they did performance cars, dyno work, a lot of Jeeps. They built parts for Jeeps, more performance stuff. So I got to learn a lot of that. And at some point I really wanted to do it on my own. So I started my own company and, just kind of grew it from there, doing Jeep stuff, trucks, lifts, all that kind of stuff. And it grew to the point where I started doing the V8 conversions. So that's what we're known for now, is the LS and the LT swaps into all the JKs and the Jeep Wranglers. All right, so in this Jeep being a 4600, you're allowed to change axles, suspension, transfer case. Obviously you put a fuel cell in a cage, all the safety stuff in it. So in this one, it's a stock class car. So we have to run the stock motor, stock transmission, 35-inch tall tires, stock body panels. You can't cut into the frame, you can't cut into the body. So you're limited on what you can do with these. So on this particular car, it raced a couple years before I got it. And I think my first year was it's either 2018 or 2019 at the Hammers. I'd never raced before. Co-driver was with me, never raced before. And we went out and it was so easy. It was like a Sunday drive. We did the desert, we got into the rocks, and it was just clipping along. We got about a 45-minute lead and the rear drive shaft bolts came out. So I decided to take it out, go front wheel drive. Kept going and got to this hill where it was really shale, rocky, and we couldn't climb it front wheel drive. So I'm like, I'm gonna try one more time. Tried one more time and the transfer case exploded. So then we had to take the front drive shaft out, use those parts to build the rear, and we lost a lot of time. And coming back to Hammers, you got to go up a big sand hill, and I couldn't do it in two-wheel drive. So we were within a couple miles of winning our first race ever, and then it breaks, which happens. But after that, I think I got second the next year, and third year I don't think we finished. Fourth year I got second. So we've come close multiple times. And then from there we did the series. I've won national championship. We've been second if we don't win. I've won the East Coast Championship, multiple, regional races. I think this Jeep has the most wins, easily out of 4,600, maybe out of all of them for the same exact vehicle running. So it's got some abuse on it and it's got some trophies to prove it. Yeah, so the first year or two we raced, we just used like the heavy duty 1-ton ball joints in it. And it seemed like easily after a Hammers race, I'd have at least one ball joint that was bent. Usually I'd have to replace them about twice a season. Just from, you take a hard shot to a wheel and it would bend the ball joint. So we're like, we got to do something better than that. I tried some eliminators in it for a little while and couldn't keep the hardware in, and they would wear out. The brass or bronze or whatever they use just didn't work in racing applications. And that's when I found American Iron, and I'm like, I got to give those a shot. So we put those in. We've been running them at least 3 years, maybe 4, and I've had 0 failures. I have had to replace them because we broke the knuckles off, and I've had to put, weld new cups into the new knuckles, but even with the bearings we took out, they were still in good shape. So they've held up really well. We were racing I think it was in Kentucky, the 4600 class, and Von Gittin Jr. was running the new Bronco, and they're fast. And we had caught him on a hill where he couldn't get up the hill, and we went around him on the hill. So on the next lap, I decided we'll take the lower trail. There's a trail that kind of goes down into the wash, and it got really tight. So we're kind of pushing through, and 2 rocks pinched us like really hard, basically just both front tires in, and snapped the knuckle clean off. So we, had to get a welder and, got it out of there. And then when I got it back to the shop, we got it all back apart and, obviously had to change the knuckle and all that in The deletes were still perfect. I mean, the bolts came out, I didn't see any wear on them. The bearings were still good, you know, and that was after probably almost a full year on them, you know, so that's, you know, I was sold with that. As far as the difference between ball joints and going to the delete, I haven't really felt any, as far as a driver, I couldn't tell any difference. You know, obviously we're off-road, you got hydraulic assist, but as far as the turning effort or the return to center or any of that stuff, I never felt any different. And, you know, so I can't say, you know, if it's a street Jeep, what the difference would be, because I haven't done it. This one not supposed to go on the street. But from what I can tell, I haven't felt any difference between ball joints and the deletes. So in this Jeep, we're running the Curry. We're running Curry Fab 9 in the front and a Curry 70 in the back. They run the Ford Super Duty outers, so we're running the I think it's 94 to 04, 94 to 04. So we're kind of limited there because you have to run a hub that has a wheel speed sensor for the transmission in this Jeep. So the knuckles are actually kind of the weak point of the front end. Suspension-wise, we're running all rock crawler springs, arms, joints, you know, steering, everything there. ADS shocks, which have actually been really good on this Jeep. They've been really good to work with, and they built me a set that has some coolers in them. Because when you get out in the desert, you know, the shocks get really hot, and these have been running nice and cool. So that, suspension-wise, that's been a big upgrade too. Yeah, I actually have more camber dialed in on these, because it seems like to me having the little bit more camber puts the tire pointing out, and I think I have less tire pinch. Like if you hit a rock, if it's straight on, it wants to pinch and you get a flat. We're having a little bit more camber, puts the rubber out underneath the wheel, and I think it's actually helped, you know, not get as many flats. I mean, my confidence in the ball joints, the deletes, are high. You know, I mean, the bolt that goes through there is massive. You know, we usually check them before the race and after the race, you know, to make sure the hardware's tight. When we first did our first install, I was getting an issue where it seemed like the more I turned, it was starting to loosen a little bit. And I got to look at it, and just from wear and, you know, different pieces, you got to make sure that the cups are in perfect, and you make sure that when you're turning, nothing touches anything. So you got to get in there and make sure you got clearance around it. But, you know, with this new stuff, I haven't had any issues. You know, with the new lock nuts, they're short. I've got the big axles in there, so it clears my big U-joints. But I say about the last year and a half, I haven't had, you know, they haven't even been loose after a 200-mile race, which is really good. Yeah, I mean, if you're on the fence about whether you want to go with just an adjustable ball joint or if you want to go with a delete, you know, I would say go with the deletes. If you're going to go wheeling, you got bigger wheels and tires, and you want to be damn sure that you're not going to be busted knuckle on the side of the road with your tie rod and everything hanging out, you know, go with the deletes. I mean, the bolts that go through there are massive, you know, and even if something failed, that bolt will hold it together. Yeah, as a builder, I mean, doing the install, it can be kind of overwhelming or a little complicated when you look at all the pieces and you're like, well, how's that supposed to work? But as you put it together, you kind of understand how he's doing it, why he's doing it, and how it's gonna benefit you when you get it all installed. Yeah, so at RPM Extreme, you know, obviously we do the GM V8 conversions. You're not gonna have one in a stock race rig, but we still do tuning. I have a pretty good tune for those, and you know, if you got a stock 3.6. But if you got a JK or a JL, we're gonna have our JL kits out pretty soon. If you want GM power, GM transmission where you don't have any Jeep lip modes or shifter issues or any of that stuff, and you know, come see me, find me on the internet, drop me an email, and we'll get you hooked up. Yeah, if you want to follow along with our race car here or find me at my shop, we'll have a link below.